We're looking at a TB3 from 1926 to 1928. You can see it's got tube and plate flange, a resonator with no binding on this side, Presto tailpiece, Archtop tone ring. So here's a summary you can read through. The rim does have some stains on the top. It's flat to hold the Archtop. The factory order number is 8278-8, which is in 4 different places on the banjo, all the same. Has a very pristine looking decal. It has the tension hoop hooks are not the Cobra style. They're not the they're the later style like 1927 or beyond. The case has lost its time. It had a tenor neck on it with the double fiddle peghead. Doesn't have the word Mastertone up there. It's got the style 3 inlays, the Grover tuners. It's got the Mastertone block down at the last fret. Like I said, the resonator has binding on the back corner. It's very plain in the back. It has these very small screws for attaching it. And the tenor, since it's a tenor, the tailpiece is unpunched. It does have a calf head on it. It was loose, relatively loose. I got it. With a pencil mark of a date in it. Here's the inside. I think that's what they call a fat rim. You can see 2 coordinator rods. The factory order number is over here on the lower right-hand side of this picture. Here's some more pictures from outside. That's a case from 2011, I think. Little piece of metal missing from one of the Grover tuners. I guess that's called a ferrule. There's checking on the back of the resonator. Here you can see some of the chalk marks. It doesn't have any red paint. And you can see the very small style attachment points for the little screws that you're going to see in a minute. There's where the neck passes through. You can see how it only has binding on one side, the lower corner. Nothing facing the audience. So here's what I'm saying, that it's not got the 1926 Cobra style hooks, even though it's tube and plate. Armrest. How the bottom coordinator rod comes out to the tailpiece. I thought it was interesting to see that some of these little nuts pass through a hole and press on that tube without pressing on the plate. You can see one right here. I think that's just resting on the tube. It does not touch the plate. It's every other one. I thought that was odd. There you can see the patent applied for. Some people were asking if I thought that this thing had wood added on the top of it. I can't find any. The corners are not sharp. There is a shiny finish on the bare wood. What should have I expected to be bare wood. It's got little splashes of stain here and there. I've seen some others like that. You can see some plies there. Here's the side of the rim where the tube and plate goes, and then the tone ring sits up there on the top. And it did have a very nice fit. I could just shake it one time and the tone ring would slip off quietly onto a towel. There's some checking on this rim, especially just above the tube and plate. Typical to see a minor crack like this where the 2 plies come together on the bottom. Now you're going to see different colors here. It gets really kind of ridiculous looking. But I don't know how to color correct, so There's one picture, there's another. You can see that the stain didn't go all the way down into some of the numbers. For example, here's another banjo found out on the internet that's pretty close, within 20 lots of each other. If you look closely at the 2 and the 8, you can see a lot of similarities. There's your patent applied for from another angle. There's that sticker. It's not cut, doesn't go all the way to the top. There's actually, I think it's about 2 and a little bit more than a quarter, maybe 5/16 from the bottom of that up to the tone ring. There's some close-ups since I learned how to use the macro on my camera. I think they did this with some kind of water transfer method. You can see 2 fakes up on the upper left side. You can buy those out on eBay. And then there's 2 genuine ones from the internet, what are thought to be genuine. And then this banjo. The main thing that you can see is that the little line between Gibson ink and the words is different on the fake ones than it is on the other ones. Looking again at the top of the rim, it's shiny, some kind of finish. This is where the rim joined in. It's got 8278-8 stamped just above that upper hole. I've got arrows pointed so you can kind of get your eyes to see these. If you're looking at it in the light and you're moving it with your hands, you can really see it pretty easily. That's not a very good picture, but you can see the numbers there. There's the tone ring, nickel plated, 40 holes, 2 pounds, 8 ounces, and a quarter. On the scale down there, it says a quarter. I wrote down an eighth, but it says a quarter down there on the scale. That's just a kitchen scale. I made this little drawing measuring with my tools. I don't know if these numbers are exact, but you can see the shape of the tone ring cross section. It's kind of hard to measure because there's some curvy parts, so it's hard to put a caliper in there. Pictures of the holes and the finish. Turning quality is outstanding. It's very amazing what the quality of the turning was. Here you can see the calf head has a pencil mark on it. Might have been when the head was put on. December 20th, 33. That would have been somebody getting ready for Christmas. More pictures of the tone ring. There's a little bit of discoloration here and there, some flecks of this and that. You can see it right there in particular. When they drilled those holes, they obviously came from the inside, and you'll see where the drill touched the top land up there. But you run your finger around there. This side's pretty sharp. The other side's got some burrs on it. Here's where it was contacting the neck. You can see a pretty substantial wear there. Not where the fingerboard touches, but down there at the upper hanger bolt. Putting a lot of pressure on there. Just showing the nickel plating. I think we've just about seen this. This is the part that sits on the rim, and you can see the skirt sits on that flat part. Like I said, the skirt was a slip fit. If you hit this thing, you get a dinner bell sort of sound. And you can see the different frequencies that it resonates at. That tension hoop has a E2 stamped in it. It's a very nice looking stamp, actually. And then you can see probably this is where the strip was joined together. So this style tension hoop, I think, means that it's greater than or equal in 1927. The Resonator and the Peghead, those are not, though. Those are 1926 style. So's the numbers. A lot of pictures here. You can stop at any time just by pressing down the space bar if you want to look at any of these closer. These are the nuts. Trying out that macro. And some hooks. They look pretty much like what I have on a 1981 J.D. Crowe Gold Star, except for the fact that look at the those screws look like they're Acme screws instead of regular machine screws. They're a little flat. You know, screws were not standardized until the 1930s when Herbert Hoover was president. So who knows what they were using. Here's your peg head. Here's a comparison again to that one that's out on the internet. Of course, that other one's been cleaned up. Notice how the cutting out of the inlay has little gaps in the O on this banjo. And the little doodad at the end of the N turns down. I don't know if there was some license to do whatever back in the day. This is where the truss rod would be adjusted. Doesn't look like this has been off lately. It's got some dust and whatnot. And you can see how thin the, I guess it's veneer up on the top of that Peghead. Pretty raggedy looking there on the bottom. The nut, the tuners. These probably could be polished out pretty good. That's a nice thing about nickel. There's some fret wear and inlays for a tenor neck. The little dots have the bottom not precise. I thought that was interesting. Some of those look kind of dry in these super zoomed in looks. Here's the end of the neck. We'll have some sharper pictures here in a second, but I can't find any pencil marks and I don't see any evidence of sanding. If you move this thing in the light, you can see the little shiny areas where the wood has been compacted pretty hard with the pressure from the hanger bolt pulling on it. I'm showing where I think the fingerboard doesn't touch the stretcher band, but the real pressure is down there next to the hanger bolts. You'll see that on the next one too. So somebody told me that this little cap that's at the bottom hanger holds in a hanger that's L-shaped. It's trapped by that Heelcap. And if you try to take that out, you're going to have trouble. That fingerboard's pretty thin. I don't know, maybe an 1/8 or just 3/16 maybe. These are the contact areas that I was talking about, and it also rests right up against the tube. You can see some shiny wood, where the pressure was on it for so many years. Here's the truss rod cover, shaped like a bell with little screws. There's a little bump on the back of this one, like it was injection molded and pushed out from the back. Here's something interesting about the tube and plate. It looks like they made a piece of flat strip and then ran it through a ring roller, because you can see marks on the inside of the ring roller where it was being driven along. I think that's neat. There's the plate, tube underneath. One side a little flat. You can see what I was talking about there. You can see one of the nuts was pressing right there on this one, but not that one. So you get a little mark on it from that. Okay, so didn't really get great pictures of this tailpiece, but it does have, still has a screw and a little nut. There's a comparison on the style of the font. Don't really have a real good picture there on the left. Either one of them's very good. Here it is on the banjo. Here it is from underneath. Notice how that's got a brass edge on it. That's the little armrest mount. It's nickel plated on four sides, and then it was cut from a strip. So it looks like they made up a strip, and then they just took how many pieces they needed from it. That's interesting. Got some wear, some patina on the armrest. I don't know if those parts are brazed or what. Anyway, here's looking at where the coordinator rod's attached to the rim. And there's a pretty good sized gap there from that fingerboard to the hoop. And it looks like the hoop has a big enough gap in it that it could be a 5-string. Here's those strange little hex screws. So they were using these in 1926. Coordinator rod hardware. See the bevel on that nut, the bevel on the washer. Again, they look like Acme threads. Little flat tops on them. There's no pencil marks or stamps on these bridges. There's just one bridge, 4 strings, 2 feet, a little crack there on the top. Looks pretty rough. Actually, it does look like there might be something marked on it right there.